My mother-in-law is currently renovating her house, so she is staying with us for this time. One day, my wife and mother-in-law went to karaoke to relax, leaving me at home with my son. In the middle of the night, I was awakened by loud laughter coming from the next room. To my surprise, I saw my wife and mother-in-law, both wearing lightweight see-through shirts, trying to do something while clearly intoxicated. Although they looked attractive, their drunken state annoyed me a bit. I tried to intervene, but they collapsed on the bed and fell asleep next to me. Thinking over the situation, I couldn't help but wonder what had just happened. Mother-in-law, of course, is still very good. The figure is still quite good for her years, and in general looks young. But I somehow did not think about it and did not expect such a thing. In the morning, my wife woke up with a headache. "What was it yesterday, my dear?" I asked her. "What was it? What are you sorry?" So what if I decided to share with my mom in a kinship way? My wife shrugged her shoulders and took a pill for her head. "Are you crazy? Why don't you ask me? Have I lost my temper?" "Oh, come on, as if you mind so much directly. You go get your breakfast and get ready. Mom will wake up. We'll all go to the mall together." I was angry. She had already made all the decisions without consulting me. Out of principle, I refused and decided to go for a walk with my son. Although the idea was tempting, it would be an interesting experience. My mother-in-law also woke up with a headache, but looked more rested than my wife. She quickly freshened up, and we were off. I, of course, got behind the wheel. At first, I didn't want to go, but I thought maybe there would be something interesting. When we got to the shopping center, my son was immediately taken to the children's playroom under the supervision of animators. I was directed to the clothing store, where there were only a few people. Suddenly, my mother-in-law called me into her fitting room. It was quite far from the entrance and the cash register in the back of the store. I walked over, and she asked me to look inside. As I looked inside, I saw that she was trying on a light and semi-transparent negligee that looked amazing on her. Everything that was and wasn't in the negligee was perfectly visible, and I didn't deny myself that pleasure. Suddenly, someone pushed me in the back, and I found myself inside the fitting room, right in her arms. Her face and body were so close, I could feel the heat of her body. Turns out it was my wife who gave me the push. She slipped in after me, exuding a seductive aura. I felt myself becoming aroused, unable to resist any longer. The fitting room was spacious, and we made quick work of our task. Fortunately, the fitting rooms were located away from the salespeople, which allowed our prank to go unnoticed. As I looked around, I noticed that the salesgirls were busy doing their own thing and didn't notice us. Everyone quickly cleaned themselves up, and my companions even made some purchases, and then left the store as if nothing unusual had happened. I was stunned by what was happening, having never encountered anything like this before. I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't expect them to take me seriously. As we passed the photo booth, my wife offered to take a picture inside, and the three of us went inside. Both of them were quite mischievous, with delicate hands and beautiful skin. My mother-in-law especially surprised me. The photo booth was quite crowded. We were like sardines in a jar, but the close proximity only added to the intrigue. The resulting photos were undoubtedly mesmerizing. They are not intended for public viewing. It was a thrilling experience. We managed to avoid exposure, which added an element of excitement. Everyone came out very satisfied, but how my wife and mother-in-law managed to clean up so quickly was a mystery to me. After doing some more shopping, we picked up our son from the playroom and returned home as if nothing had happened. At home, we laid out the groceries, cooked a meal, and put our son to bed, after which I went to bed as well. Later, my wife and mother-in-law surprised me with a four-handed massage, which was incredibly relaxing. Their energy level throughout the day just amazed me. We ended up staying up until the early hours of the morning, feeling tired and exhausted. The next day, I woke up later than everyone else and found that my wife and mother-in-law had already made breakfast and taken my son to daycare. I enjoyed my breakfast, and everyone went about their daily business. During lunch, we decided to relax by watching a few movies, indulging in pizza, sushi, and wine. My wife put her head on my shoulder, hugging my arm, and my mother-in-law put her legs on top of me. However, just watching a movie wasn't enough, and we had to find other ways to entertain ourselves. We missed all the most intriguing parts of the movie, but no one was upset. During the movie, someone accidentally kicked a pizza box, causing it to scatter on the floor. While my wife and mother-in-law argued about who was at fault and who should clean up after themselves, I stayed out of the argument. Eventually, they came to a mutual agreement and cleaned up the mess. Feeling hungry, I finished the sushi. Later that evening, my wife went to pick up our son from kindergarten, and I went to take a shower without closing the door. And who would I be embarrassed by? I had just turned on the water when I heard the sound of the door opening. My mother-in-law came in. What son-in-law didn't expect? She asked with a playful smile. I don't think my wife will like it, I replied. Come on, we won't tell her. It'll be our little secret. Jennifer, my mother-in-law, already had her arms around my neck. We kissed. I didn't realize Jennifer was so passionate. We ended things quickly, almost knocking down the bathroom shelf. She barely had time to get out of the bathroom and clean herself up when my wife and son walked in. I cleaned myself up and left. Of course, I was never allowed to sleep again that night. My wife and mother-in-law gave me a nightly marathon. Where did they get the energy to do that? I was happy, but I also needed rest, or I wouldn't have lasted long without a good night's sleep. While Jennifer was living with us, I had regular marathons like this at night and sometimes during the day. I slept periodically, sometimes a little, but in general, I was satisfied with life because my desires were satisfied by two very beautiful women. However, once the renovations to my mother-in-law's apartment were completed, my sweet life came to an end. Jennifer moved out and it never happened again, much to my dismay. But my wife began to make more of an effort, and she was very good at it. So this adventure was quickly forgotten, and I maintained a friendly relationship with my mother-in-law.